Well, there we go. Welcome to it. The next of our 2019 Bonitas Comrades Marathon Online Success Seminars. My name is Brad Brown. We've got the coach with us once again, Lindsay Perry. Lindsay, how's it?
How's it, Brad? How are you?
Yeah, very good, man. I'm excited that we get to do these again, or another one. There are tons of questions flying around the Book of Face, and I think tonight's going to be a goodie. There's a lot of people who are stressing. There are a lot of people who are confident. There are a lot of people who are injured, and we're going to try and cover all of that tonight. If you are joining us for the very first time, welcome. If you are coming back for number 4, welcome back. It's good to have you on. Let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to know that you can see and hear us loud and clear. Pop it in the comments. Where are you from? Where are you joining us? And what number Comrades is this for you? So if you are a novice, never done one before, this is number 1, let us know. If you are an uprun novice, let us know as well. Pop those in the comments. Lots of comments coming through. So we've got Moses, who's in Pretoria. How's it, Moses? Maruska, who's in Bloemfontein. How's it, Maruska? And Eric in Honeydew. So lots of people coming through. Also give us a like and a love if you wouldn't mind as well. And if we can ask you to just share this into any running groups that you may have on Facebook, or if you're on WhatsApp, you can share this through WhatsApp as well. So please just let us try and get as many people onto this tonight as we can. We want to get as many eyeballs as we can as possible so that we can help as many people get their Comrades Marathon in their medal in 2019. Just a big thank you as well to Bonitas for making these online seminars possible. If it wasn't for them, they definitely wouldn't be happening. So thank you very much to Bonitas tonight. Just a bit of housekeeping to get through. First of all, as always, questions are more than welcome. So please pop them in the comments. In the comments below this video, and we'll try and get to as many of them as possible. We are going to run through a few things tonight just to sort of see how people are doing. And I wanted to know how you're feeling. Are you ready? Do you think you've done what you can and you are feeling confident? Are you tired and hungry? Let us know. If you're injured, give us a big help. And if you are undercooked and panicking, we want to know that as well, okay? So pop those in the comments. We'd love to see that. And then just to know what we're going to be running through tonight, we're going to talk about, as always, these webinars are always pretty much the same, where you should be right now, what you should be focusing on between now and Comrades, and then also race day lists are quite important, and then we're going to share some Comrades Marathon resources with you as well. Lindsay, let's get started with where folks should be right about now, because we are about 5 weeks out as it stands right now. What should we be focusing, or where up to now, what should we have done?
Yeah, so look, it's the first time that we don't split these webinars into the different medals, because really everybody's kind of in the same boat. Obviously your elites and your silver and Isabel Roche Kellys, they're going to still do their long run this weekend coming, but for the vast majority of the field, 95% of runners, and that's really who these webinars are for, they've all done their long run this past weekend, unless certainly most of the internationals. And if you are a South African, there's a possibility exists that you have done 2 oceans, in which case we've covered on many media platforms that there may still be one more long-ish run coming up for them next week. But for the most part, the taper, if you like, is starting to swim into focus. And as you alluded to, there'll be some people that'll be really confident because they really felt so good and everything went perfectly according to plan on their long runs. And there are going to be a couple of people that are a little bit worried and didn't feel as good as they were hoping to. I've got 1 or 2 clients that felt absolutely amazing, and 1 or 2 clients that felt like their legs were really heavy and tired. And that is the whole beauty of the taper that's coming up. The most important thing for us is that we want to get to the start line fresh, but at 5 weeks we still have some way to go to the race. So how do we manage ourselves, especially over the next 3 weeks? And what are we going to do? We're going to go into detail what we're going to do over the next 3 weeks. But I think for me, the important thing is to take out of this long run what you needed to take on. And if you felt really amazing and you're feeling good this week, then you do want to try and just carry on and get a little bit more out of your body, but be cognizant of the fact that you don't want to get too tired. And if you felt really, really tired on this, that fatigue is a sign that you've done a lot of really good training. So don't panic. Don't let your confidence take too much of a ding, but be mindful of the fact that over the next couple of weeks, give your body a little bit of a break and tweak that so that you're not training quite as hard as you perhaps planned. So just because your program said that's what you must do, there is some room there for you to just do a little bit less or skip a day here and there. And it's all about making sure that you don't get injured and making sure that you don't get sick. But very importantly, if you do, and we'll cover that also a little bit later in the talk, do something about it.
Yep.
Don't just don't put your head in the sand and think to yourself, I've got to get through 3 more weeks of training and then I will sort myself out. Don't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, you're going to be sharing a stat a little bit later on in tonight's webcast that is frightening, that you definitely want to stick around for, because if you are struggling with a bit of a niggle, hopefully it'll sort of scare you into action to go and get that niggle sorted. But we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. As always, your questions are welcome. Please keep them coming. I see lots of good ones coming through already, and some of the stuff we are going to touch on. So I'm going to scan through those questions. We might not get to them straight away, but do stick around. We're going to be with you for the next hour or so, and we'll answer as many as we can to sort of to allay some fears. Lindsay, before we get into what we should be focusing on over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to ask this question because I know it's going to come up, and it's a difficult one to answer because, again, how long is a piece of string? But I see it popped up in the questions already. Somebody saying, I've run X amount of kilometers. Have I done enough? It's a difficult question to answer because people want to be told they have done enough. But whether you've done enough or too little or too much, there's not much you can do about it now.
Yeah, so look, again, and that does take us into the next 3 weeks, so maybe that question leads us there. And there are 5 weeks left. A lot of us have done a long run on pretty tired legs, so this week in particular needs a little bit of compromise there. So you're probably going to try and train fairly normally this week, but you either want to drop the volume slightly for the first 2 or 3 days, or you want to strip the intensity out of this week because you want your body to absorb that long run and you don't pile stress on top of that long run. So effectively that means that thereafter you've got 2 weeks to do some good training, being mindful that on the weekends we have to start pulling down the kilometers because we really do want to start bringing some of that freshness through. So you are right. We can't chase kilometers now. And people do want to know. And so I'm as I always do, I'm going to give a slight rule of thumb here on what kilometers we are aiming to do. But all the great Comrades runners, all the great Comrades coaches have a similar thread of advice, and that is that they are happy to send or they'd rather send you into battle at Comrades being slightly under than over. So obviously it's lacquer to be in that perfect, this is where we want to be. But if you had to choose which side of that island to be on, you want to choose to be on the under side. Because one of the very important things for Comrades is being fresh, uninjured and healthy. And you've got a much better chance of being uninjured and healthy if you're under rather than being over. And if you get 20, 30 Ks into Comrades with tired legs, you just feel like you're going to have a really long day. So essentially your 11 to 12 hour category is searching for somewhere in the region of 800 to 900, maybe pushing 1,000 Ks. Your 10 to 11 hours are looking around 900 to 1,000, maybe 1,100. Your 9 to 10 hours are looking somewhere between 1 and 1.3, and your sub 9s are probably looking somewhere around 1.4 to 1.6, and your silver runners are looking somewhere between 2 and 2,300, and those are all from 1st of January. Of course, this year and next year, with Comrades falling so late in June, you're essentially scoring 10 to 14 extra days to get those numbers. So there isn't a lot of pressure to get those kilometers. And there's a few people in the audience, either tonight or that are going to watch this posthumously, that have got a bit of a wobbly feeling in their stomach because they're only going to get to about 650 to 700 kilometers. And I know heaps of runners that have finished on that. And again, I'd be lying if I would advocate for people to go in with 600, 650, but there isn't a whole lot that can be done about it. So if you've done 650, you've gotten through a 50 to 55 kilometer long training run, then have some confidence in yourself on race day. I think you will probably be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Lindsay, your mate Pat Cravarchen's on the broadcast with us tonight as well, and I thought you might appreciate his comment. He said there was a crazy South African at the Milton Keynes Marathon who ran a 18-kilometer warm-up before the race and then ran a sub-3 marathon. He says he's an embarrassment to the slow Brits. Pat, nice to have you on. Yeah, definitely. I hope he's training for Comrades because you definitely don't want to be doing that sort of stuff if you aren't. Keep those questions coming. Some great questions. Lindsay, let's talk about the next 5 weeks. And you mentioned Comrades being slightly later. Obviously, I'm so used to it being around the last weekend in May that these extra couple of weeks, it almost feels like we should be tapering already, but we're not quite there, are we?
No, we're not. And I think we've got, in the next 3 weeks, we've got 2 weeks of good training left. As just now, this week, you probably want to give yourself a little bit of a break. Not take a rest, but you do want to just turn it down a notch, allow your body to recover from the long training run. And then you're going to go into fairly normal training for the next 2 weeks. So what does fairly normal mean? It means that from Monday to Friday, you're probably going to do exactly the type of training that you've been doing up until this point in time. And the weekend of the 18th of May, you're going to do one more long run. And that's going to mean different things for different people. But whatever your stock long run has been, so if you've been running, most of your long runs have been a 25k, and then you've branched out and done the odd 30 plus and 40 plus and 50 sort of run, or if your stock run has been 30 to 35, then you're going to do one more of those. That's going to be on the weekend, the 18th of May. So it's going to be somewhere, I guess, between 25 and 36, depending on what training program you've been following and what medal you're going to be on. And then the following week, you have got, again, Monday to Friday is going to be what you've been doing up to this point in time, whether you're working on hills or, that volume is going to stay exactly the same. But the cut is going to start from a tapering point of view. So you're going to lop off 20%, give or take, off of what you've been doing up until this point. And then that's going to take us right into those final 2 weeks of tapering. And of course, that we are going to cover in detail when we do our next webinar, which will really be all about the last 2 weeks, and at least half of that hour will focus on the race itself. But we will then go into the genuine taper where you'll cut all volume by 75% 2 weeks out, and then the final week you'll do 50% of what you did the previous week. But just to give people an idea going into the future. But what is important, and I want to go back to what I said earlier, is that you will know how tired you are now from your long run. So if you nurse yourself really well this week, because you're so fit, you should bounce back really quickly, and that'll give you those 2 weeks to train well. If you're feeling amazing, still give yourself a little bit of a cutback. You probably don't need a big one, but just drop it a little bit, because you don't want to arrive those last 2 weeks feeling tired. And then you need to allow a little bit of extra recovery. I guess that's what I'm talking about, because what we really, really want to try and avoid now is injury and illness by pushing too far in. If you have pain, treat it. And then that last little line there on that slide, which is really what I was trying to get at a few moments ago, was that in this, from here on in, less is probably more. So have your plan. If you're feeling great, then execute your plan. But just be aware that if you're not feeling 100%, you can slip a day every week from now to Comrades race day, and it's not going to compromise on your ability to finish. In fact, it may boost those chances to finish if you are feeling really weak or tired, or the legs just aren't cooperating, really struggling to get out of bed in the morning. Some fatigue is alright, but when you're starting to get into very serious fatigue, that's too much.
Brilliant. Keep those questions coming. You can pop them in the comments if you have just joined us. Thank you so much. It's good to have you with us. And if you wouldn't mind just giving us a like or a love to let us know that you can hear us. And if you know of someone who is running Comrades, please tag them in the comments, or share the stream into a Facebook group that you might be in, that you and your running crew are in. Lindsay, we're going to talk a little bit more about injury in just a moment, but it is that time of the year, unfortunately. And there are lots of people who are struggling with a bit of flu. I'm not even going to put the question up because it's there. Like, I'm just scrolling through, and there are a ton of people who are struggling with flu or a bit of a cold. What's the deal with the sniffles? Can you train through it? Should you stop training? Should we be going for flu shots now? What's the deal?
So look, I'm always a little bit uncomfortable dispensing medical advice because each person's going to have slightly unique symptoms. But, I think sniffles, a slight headache, runny nose, certainly anything that's not in your chest, that's probably okay to train with. I wouldn't do any high-intensity exercise because that very high respiratory drive only probably makes you more susceptible to getting a chest infection, which is really what you don't want at this stage. And also, when you are ill, your body needs to repair itself, and banging out really big weeks of training and high intensity sessions not going to help you to recover better. So I would probably carry on training with that sort of, let's call it a head cold for lack of a better description, or when you're not when you're not sure whether you've got it's allergy related or whether you've got a cold, you're probably fine. And again, that's generally always neck up. So I think for one of the general rules, let's go neck up is one of the main things to say that if it's up there and it could be allergies or it could be a cold, you're probably all right to train, but just tone it down a notch. Give your body the ability to fight that off and prevent yourself from getting a secondary infection. Once it gets into the chest, very sore throats, like very colorful snot and coughing, then you probably want to give your body a chance to heal. I would probably go and see a doctor, especially because I would want to get better as quickly as possible so that it can affect me over the next little bit as little as possible. If you're having fever, so hot and colds, that's a very classic sign of a viral infection. And, the problem with viral infections is that they do tend to attack your muscles too, and your heart's a muscle, so that puts you at cardiac risk. But certainly you don't want to start sick. And so for me, if I'm sick now and there's 5 weeks to go, I'm going to go, you know what, if I miss 3, 4, 5 days of training now, but I get healthy because of that rest, absolutely worth it. Whereas train hard now, you're a little bit sick, you train hard now, it becomes worse. I chatted to one client today, and the Two Oceans half was the main race for the first quarter of the year. So he woke up in the morning feeling a little bit iffy, but that's the race we were training for. So really raced really hard, and then found out hours after the race that he had picked up a bit of a nasty bug, and we're only starting to train today. That's how long he's been sick for. I mean, that was the 20th of April. We're now on the 6th of May. So that's what happens when you place yourself under really big stress with high intensity and volume, like a hard 21. So, I would again err on the side of caution, and I'd probably take a few days at this junction. But yeah, if it's really light, can't decide whether it's illness or allergies, train very easy. Anything more serious than that, rest, go and see a doctor, get yourself sorted out.
Gee, Lindsay, I hope everyone was listening to the first bit of that question with the sound on, because it looked like you were about to start doing the YMCA, but we're glad that you got that sorted. Lindsay, quick question in before we get on to the next slide, and there's two people have asked pretty much the same question. The first one was from Kolisa. Kolisa was saying, how often should we be doing sports massage and physiotherapist visits, as well as chiropractor appointments? And then the second one was from Jennifer. Jennifer also asking about how long before Comrades should we have a massage?
So I'm quite a believer in massage, but that's largely because I respond really, really well to massage. And I think when it comes to recovery modalities, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those because we've got such a short time, I'm going to summarize what discussed in previous webinars just around recovery. But you need to find that recovery modality that really speaks to you. And certainly what I also really enjoy about massage is that a good therapist can pick up potential issues. They also give you a little bit of an insight into what's starting to unravel in your body, and it gives you an opportunity to actually coming about that, even to, either to go to a physical therapist and get an exercise that will help you to support whatever it is that's going wrong. But they are often able to iron something out, or then say, look, this is really a bit of an issue, which then could lead you to go to a physiotherapist and make sure that you, again, very important, line up uninjured. So I'm a big fan of it, and I would go as often as your budget would allow. So if your budget allows once a week, fantastic, go once a week. Otherwise, every second week, every third week, once a month. So go as often as your budget will allow. And in terms of how long before race day, if you've been going for massage and you have had massage all along, then you get a really good idea of how long it affects you for. So, in my case, if I have a massage, I feel a little bit funny that day if I run afterwards. So I generally tend to train before that massage, and the next morning I feel slightly heavy legs. So I will never schedule a speed work or hill work session the day after a massage, but maybe I would do a long run. But then the next day, nothing. So in my case, 2 to 3 days before an event, I'd think nothing of a massage. And you will know that if you are somebody who does regular massages. If you don't do regular massage, it's not a terrible idea to get a massage, but then I would look at 7 to 10 days before. You can certainly have bruising and feel quite sore for 2 to 3 days after a massage if you're not used to a massage. And then it'll probably take another 2 or 3 days before you lose that slightly lethargic feeling that you get from, or that you can get from a massage. So if you haven't had massage before, 7 to 10 days.
Awesome. Just once again, a massive thank you to Bonitas for making these online seminars possible. They have been amazing in the build-up to Comrades once again this year. And I know every single one of you who are on this broadcast really do appreciate it as well. So a big thanks to Bonitas. Lindsay, let's talk about you mentioned niggles. And now's the time to really get them sorted. And that stat that's up on the screen now is frightening.
So, look, again, I've said it, 5 times already tonight. If you are sore, get it sorted out now. because that's the most important thing. The biggest threat to anybody not finishing Comrades, and especially anybody that's going to be slower than 10 and a half, 11 hours, your biggest threat to not finishing this race is injury. Over the years, we always asked the runners, why aren't you finishing? We were noticing there was a high degree of non-finishers coming from G and H. So, that starts to point to the fact that it's because they lose so much time at the beginning. But the reality is that when we delved deep and we actually went to those runners and asked them, why do you think that you did finish the race? 68% of those people that we asked came back and said they started with an injury. So that is the highest common denominator in non-finishers is starting with an injury. So if that doesn't tell you to get your injury sorted out now, then nothing is going to. So really, if I'm injured at this stage of Comrades, I'm going to rest for a few days and I'm going to get physio treatment. Cross-training becomes an option. So that's the other thing. You don't have to stop exercising completely. Swimming, aqua jogging, stationary cycling, rowing, elliptical, all of those things become an option. Anything that does not cause the pain that you are feeling. But really the treatment and the healing and the sorting out of that it's the most important thing for race day. And in terms of the rest of us that are not injured, recovery is the absolute key to keeping you uninjured between now and race. Now we have on, I think, 2 or 3 of the 4 webinars that we've done up to now, we've spoken about this exact slide. But I feel like now, with so little time left and so much of the hard work done, that it's worth reiterating it and saying, guys, I know we live busy lives. We've all got different issues and problems, kids, newborns. Some of us travel a lot for work. So all these things I'm going to talk about now maybe aren't so easy. But really, we're talking about 3 weeks. If you can do these things for the next 3 weeks, you're really going to improve your chances of not getting sick and not getting injured. And if you can avoid those 2 things, man, you're giving yourself a really good head start to finishing the race. So what am I harping on about? I mean, it's there, it's on the screen. We're talking about rest, sleep, nutrition. So if you are feeling more tired than you should, if you are feeling more sore than you should, take a day or 2 of rest. Don't be shy to do that at this point in time. But the next 2 are really where it's at. In terms of absolutely giving your body the best possible chance of healing, the sleep and the nutrition over the next 3 weeks. So sleep, I'm going to give it to you in 3 simple, not necessarily easy, but 3 simple and understandable steps to having a good night's sleep. So again, I'm not going on here about the amount of hours. So at this stage, anything extra is a bonus. So if you can get extra half an hour, extra hour per night, that's great. But these three things that are going to enormously improve the quality of your sleep. Number 1, get into bed well before 10 o'clock so that you can be sleeping by 10 p.m. If you're sleeping by 10 p.m., you're giving your body a really good chance to get a nice big surge of growth hormone and testosterone, which will allow you to really recover well through the night while you're sleeping. Number 2, get off smart devices. Up to an hour before, but try for at least 30 minutes. No smartphones, laptops. Hope you're not watching this now after 9 o'clock at night, but you can do it. You can do it twice a week, but as a rule, try and get yourself off those devices 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed. And then number 3, let your room be as dark and cool, not cool as possible, because we don't need minus temperatures, but dark as possible and slightly cool. So dark as possible means cell phones out of the bedroom, somewhere else, no flashing lights, blue light, no red dot shining at you from a mosquito machine or from a from a TV. Make sure those things are covered or somewhere where they do illuminate the room. And if you can get those three things right, massive improvement of quality of sleep, massive improvement in recovery. And then nutrition. The last webinar we had a really good chat about nutrition, and we also included questions there about Ramadan. So actually, apologies, we didn't wish our Muslim listeners not, I don't want to say good luck, that's not the right word, but that we are thinking about you all in this religious time. But we cover that in the previous webinar. So go onto the website or onto the Comrades, onto coachperry.com or the Comrades website. You can download the webinars there, and there's a really good webinar all about what you should and shouldn't be doing. But for the purposes of this webinar, it's to reiterate that eat healthy, eat smart, give your body the macro and micronutrients that it needs. In South Africa, we're going into a really cold time now, especially up on the Highveld. So up your vitamin C intake, multivitamins, but make sure that you really look after yourself now and give yourself that really good fighting chance of not getting sick and staying injury free.
Yeah, we've had a few questions about nutrition, particularly race day nutrition as well, and how to handle that. And as Lindsay mentioned, the last online seminar that we did, we had Nikki de Villiers on, who's our resident sort of sports nutritionist and dietitian, and she did a whole presentation on how to do that. So the link is on our Facebook page, on Lindsay's Facebook page. It's also, as Lindsay said, on our website, coachperry.com. If you go to comrades.com as well, you'll find it there. And definitely go and watch that. If you haven't watched that yet, it'll help you put a plan together for race day from a nutrition point of view. And ideally, you should have that all sorted already. That's what your long runs were for, as a bit of a dress rehearsal for that as well. And Lindsay also mentioned Ramadan. We did a podcast just a week and a bit ago with one of the members of our online training club as well, who's going to be fasting over this period, and how to get that right in the build-up to Comrades. So definitely go and check that out. It is on coachperry.com as well. Keep the questions coming. Lindsay, great questions. There are lots of them. But I wanted to just touch on one. We mentioned about what to do if you are sick now, but a couple of people asking, is it okay to avoid people totally for the next 5 weeks to avoid getting sick? What are some of the things you can do to avoid getting the flu right now? I mean, you mentioned nutrition, obviously that plays a big part, but sort of keeping hands clean and staying away from people, does that help?
So that's actually a magic question. And can I tell you what? The biggest thing that you can do to stay healthy is to keep these guys clean. So I would keep a hand sanitizer close at hand, and if you have to shake hands, touch anybody, if you're on an escalator, if you're traveling on an aeroplane, sitting on a bus, hands are by far the biggest spreader of germs, because you will be your mind will be blown if you knew how many times a day you actually touch your face with your hands. And that is generally how germs enter our system. Of course, there are a few other communicable diseases, people sneezing on you and coughing on you. So I don't think you have to avoid people full stop, but if you're living in a cold climate during this period of time, if you go in somewhere and people are blasting heaters and all the means of fresh air getting into a building have been shut off, I'd avoid those kind of places. But as a general rule, if you come into contact with people, bit of hand sanitizer, keep your hands clean. That's probably going to be your absolute best chance of staying healthy.
Yeah, if I catch the person who gave me the flu at the Two Oceans Expo, they're in for it. Lindsay T, man, I've just gotten over it. I'm still coughing and spluttering a bit. It's a good thing we're on online tonight, that you don't have to deal with me in person. Great question in from Fahima Limbada. Fahima was asking about the park run. the day before Comrades, and I know a lot of people love doing it, particularly the internationals. Lindsay, what's your view of doing that promenade park run or a short run the day before Comrades?
So, look, 5Ks, when you're as fit as we are, if you're going to go out and run 5Ks at a park run, there's really no problem with it. Of course, if you've got any competitive anything in you, I would stay away from it. But, if you go there and you run 5Ks at Comrades race pace, a little bit quicker, I suppose, but, a bit of walking, high-fiving with your mates, a friendship type run scenario, that's not going to cause you any issues. Of course, if you go out there and you run anywhere in the ballpark or vicinity of your PB or get competitive in any way, that's not going to do you any favors for the next day. So I think it really just boils down to how you plan on tackling it. And also, over the last 6 or 7 months, have a proper think back, perhaps go and look through your running diary and see how do you feel the day after a rest day? When you exit a rest day, does that make you feel really good or a little bit lethargic? Do you feel better when you've done a little bit of something the day before? And if that is the case, then probably doing a little 20-minute jog or a park run, 35-minute park run is a good thing. But if you generally come out of a day of rest feeling like really great and ready to tackle, then I probably wouldn't do it. I would rather just rest.
Yep, absolutely. Just once again, a massive thank you to our sponsor of this online webinar. It is brought to you by Bonitas. They are the official sponsor of the Comrades Marathon as well, and they do make these possible. Keep the questions coming. There's some fab ones in the comments. And Lindsay, we got one that's quite specific, but I think we can turn it into something broad as well, because 5 weeks to go. I know we are going to get this question again, but this one is from Nicolette Versace. And Nicolette is asking about her shoes. She says, I got advice to change my shoes. She was running into anti-pronation to neutral shoes after 2 Oceans, where she got inflammation on her heel pad and tendons. She used these new shoes. They're very expensive. On a 36K run on the weekend, she got bad knee pain on the inner knee. Should she go back to the others, or should she continue, or should she go back to the shoe shop? Is changing shoes from anti-pronation to neutral a good idea so close to Comrades? And I think that goes for any shoes. Is now the time to be changing shoes if you have to?
So I think for me, that's there are 2 questions here. And the first question in this specific case is, do you need to change shoes? And the answer to that question is possibly. However, because you've been getting that medial support, so in other words, an anti-pronation shoe gives you a lot of support on the inside of the shoe, often if you don't need it too much, which then leads to a few other issues, and now, okay, you've got this bruised patty pad, which could be linked to that anti-pronation shoe because your foot's been forced to the outside more than it perhaps should. So should you consider changing shoes? Probably. Should you consider changing shoes now before Comrades? I wouldn't. And the reason I say that is because you are so used to having that medial support. That knee, the pain on the inside of the knee is coming from the fact that you don't have that medial support anymore. And your body can obviously develop the tools that it doesn't need that medial support, but that would come after Comrades. And you can then build up a little slower. You're not chucking yourself straight into like a 50 to 60K training week. So as a long-term change, it may be good for you. Obviously, I use the word may and perhaps because I haven't seen you and I don't know if you do need to or don't need to. So for Comrades, I wouldn't change shoes. Now, depending on how old the old pair are, they may have contributed to the injury just because you need new shoes anyway. And if that's the case, then changing shoes now is the time. So for a more general answer to this question for everybody who is listening and wondering about, 4 or 5 weeks to go is a really good time to change shoes, because that means that between now and race day, you're going to have somewhere between 250 and 400 kilometers in that pair of shoes, which means that on race day, it's going to be well worn in. It's going to sit, your feet are going to sit nicely in that shoe, but there's still going to be plenty of cushioning in the shoe, because typically we start to get to the end of life of shoes somewhere between 600, 800, maybe 1,000 Ks if you're under 60 kgs and or female. So now for me, if my shoes are looking ropey, I'm not 100% sure they're going to make it to Comrades, now is exactly the time that I'll be looking to change those shoes.
Gee, you talk about that those few Ks on a pair of shoes, Lindsay. I don't think people are in our Facebook group, because I asked that question, I think it was day before yesterday, how many is the most amount of Ks you got out of a pair of running shoes? And there were some people who've done like 3,000 Ks in a pair of shoes, which is ridiculous. I want to know how much they weigh. Because definitely not my shoes, that's for sure. I do it on the other end of the scale. Lindsay, question in, speaking of shoes, a question in from, let me see if I can find it. It's got to do with, it was here a second ago. I can't find who asked the question, but I was asking, is it okay to swap your shoes halfway through the race? Not sure why you want to, but is it okay to do it?
It is fine to do it. Of course, you want to make sure that you have actually run in the shoes that you're swapping into. You're not going to swap into a brand new pair of shoes. So if they're shoes that you've run in before, so there's a couple of reasons why doing that isn't the worst idea. One of them is, of course, that shoes can get heavy and wet either through sweat or spillage of water getting onto them. Also, when you're on your feet or on the shoes for a very long period of time, they can actually squash. And, when you then take them off and rest them till the next day, they flesh out a bit again. So they can obviously then over the course of 90 kilometers become quite compressed. So if you whipped on a new pair of shoes at 50 or 60 Ks, they would feel actually very nice on your feet. Of course, the changing and sitting down and all of that may actually be a little uncomfortable, but there's a few good reasons for that. And you may have shoes that do something slightly different. So as you get more and more tired and you run along and you become more tired and your knee ducks in a little bit, a shoe with some very mild medial support may actually really feel quite nice on your feet too. So there could be a number of reasons for swapping shoes. Of course, it's not like the most practical thing to do, but if people have the means and they've got family that's going to be on the side of the road, absolutely nothing wrong with a pair of fresh socks and fresh tackies to get you through to the finish line.
Yeah, as they say. A very important point from Kanesh as well, Lindsay, is make sure that you take your chip off the old shoes and put them on the new ones that you swap them on race day.
Now that is an absolute gold piece of advice. Yes, absolutely. You do not want to arrive at the finish line without your chip.
Yeah, we don't want Mark Dowdeswell to find you and get you that you were cheating. That's exactly what will happen to you. So, Lindsay, let's hop on to the last slide that we've got that we wanted to run through tonight, because we are running out of time rapidly. But keep those questions coming. There's some fab ones. We'll get to a few more of those. But you mentioned race day lists. This is vital, and now's the time to do it before your brain goes like jelly just before race day.
Yeah, and also because you've just done the Comrades long run. So it's actually perfect because you've just done this amazing training run. The underpants, the socks, the shoes, the caps. I mean, I know I've just said buy new shoes if you need them, but that's only if you need them. But everything that you used and worked for you on race day, that actually becomes like a little bit of a security blanket on race day, because you're using all these things that you know worked and made you feel good, and everything about the day kind of clicked. So write those all down on a list so that you don't forget. The flavor, if there's a particular flavor of gel that is delicious to you, like for me, it's chocolate or vanilla, one of the two of those, man, like I love it so much. I save it, then it's like pudding when you have it later race, when you're sick of everything else, but you've got this one gel that you know you're going to love, or cream soda. So cream soda and a vanilla gel, those are two things that, you know, the last 20 Ks of Comrades, that's what I'm living for. So those sort of things, make little lists so that you know exactly what you used when, how you used it on race day, suntan lotion, you name it, what you used it. And there's a couple of examples there. And I think we'll do the same thing we did last year, Brad, and we'll pop my list onto a post which we'll send out to everybody. So you've got my list, and you can kind of add to that list. But it's really got everything I can think of, you know, plasters for your nipples, lubricant for between all the bits that chafe, comfortable pair of underwear, comfortable socks, you name it, you put it down there, because then you cannot forget it, because you've got a little piece of paper that, you know, when we do our next webinar, you know, I'll keep telling you to refer back to your list, make sure that you've got absolutely everything that you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those, Lindsay. The last sort of 20 Ks of Comrades, when you get that, I almost want to call it a care package, that favourite gel, or like you say, a tin of cream soda. Let us know what yours are. Someone was saying, Brian was saying it's ice cream for him, 20 Ks to go. Let us know in the comments what it is that you love sort of getting. For me, if you had to hold a gun to my head and say, eat a Marmite sandwich now, I would tell you to pull the trigger, because I cannot take it. But on Comrades, last 20 Ks, there's nothing better in my mind than a Marmite sandwich. So let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear yours. And then let's get to a couple more questions, Lindsay. There is one from, let me see where it is here. It was from Espia. It's quite a long one, and it's got to do with long runs. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier on in the broadcast. Espia wanted to know. He said he did the two oceans, and he plans on doing a 45K run over the weekend. For next weekend's long runs, I see it's a 3-hour 30 and a 2-hour on the program. He's following the Bull Rowan. For him, that'll be in the region of a 40 to 42 and a 23. Seeing that race day is fast approaching, is it okay to follow the program, or should I just make adjustments? Thanks very much for the advice and the time. It's meant the world to him. Thanks, Espia.
Yeah, so Espia this weekend will be doing 45, and then no. Then Espia needs to adjust that program for next week. I would say no further than 30, maximum 30. The following week, and then so maybe 50 over the whole weekend, 30 on the Saturday, and 18 to 20 on the Sunday. But having done 40 or doing 45 this coming weekend, we definitely don't need another 40 the week after that.
Yeah. Two very similar questions, although slightly different. One is from Tabo, saying, is it too late to take a flu shot? And then Gabbo was asking, he's got a trip to Tanzania after the race, and he needs to have a yellow fever vaccine. At this stage, is it a yes or a no?
So I have been asked these questions quite a bit over the years, and I've asked a couple of doctors, and unfortunately the answer I've received from the doctors hasn't always been unanimous. But far the majority of doctors feel that a flu vaccine, especially if you know you're going to be spending time in high-risk populations, and also as part of an ongoing year-on-year thing, is very good. And of course, the people that I have coached and work with typically don't experience any negative symptoms longer than 2 days after. So generally, they'll have the injection, they get that what I was talking about earlier, that you're not sure if you're having some seasonal allergies or a head cold, so you do get a tiny bit stuffy and like very mild hangover sort of feeling, and then you're generally absolutely fine. So with 5 weeks to go, I'd say it's probably a safe time. Look, the yellow fever, I've had a couple of those, and I can honestly tell you, I did not even know that I'd had an injection, besides the fact that I watched it happen. So, I don't think the yellow fever one is a biggie at all. So, and again, with 5 weeks out, I'd be quite comfortable saying to someone, if you need it for work, go and get it done.
I love what people love. 20Ks to go. Bevan Poole saying Bultong and a Steri Stumpy. That's alienated all of our international listeners who've never been to South Africa before, who don't know what Bultong and a Steri Stumpy is. You'll find out on Comrades Race Day, that's for sure. For our Americans, it's beef jerky and chocolate milk is probably the closest we're going to get to Steri Stumpy. Jacob saying oranges. Andile is saying bar one, some great ones. And then someone was mentioning Comrades Dreams as well. If your Comrades Dreams haven't started yet, they're coming. Just heads up as well. I posted on Facebook the other day. I had one, and it was quite funny because I'm not running this year, but I had a Comrades Dream, so I'm not quite sure what to make of that. But I dreamt that obviously with the issues around the SABC not broadcasting Two Oceans and whether or not they're going to broadcast Comrades, I dreamt that the SABC and Athletics South Africa actually came to an agreement. And because of cutting costs at the SABC, they were only going to broadcast 9 hours, which Comrades then went and shortened the cutoff to 9 hours. So it's not happening, just so you know, but I dreamt that I ran a PB on the up run, which was just over 11 hours, and I got to the finish and there was no one there. So that was my Comrades Dream, which is not happening because I'm not running. But Lindsay, before we get to a couple more questions, I just wanted to share some resources with everyone. If you haven't checked them out yet, do check out the Run with Coach Parry podcast. Particularly now, between now and Comrades, we've got a couple of really cool Comrades ones coming up, some one-on-one coaching calls that'll definitely help you as well. We also do those weekly Q&A videos that you can catch on Lindsay's Facebook page. And then we've also put together a Comrades Marathon Training Roadmap on the CoachParry.com website, which will basically get you, and we've been doing it for the last year almost, right through to race day. So if you haven't checked out that Comrades roadmap, it tells you exactly what you should be doing. Paces included. There are strength, stretching and warm-up programs in there as well. And a very active forum, which is the only place that you can get access to Lindsay and the rest of our coaches as well. You can get access there right now. CoachParry.com is where you can get all the details. You can get it through the website as well as our very interactive and user-friendly mobile app as well. A couple more questions coming through. Lindsay, this one wants to, and this is such a great question from Eric, asking when should we stop hill repeats altogether, or should we do it before race week?
So I'm quite comfortable doing hill repeats right up to the second last week. So in the final week, I wouldn't do any, but right up to 2 weeks before Comrades, so let's say up to 10 days before Comrades, I'll do the last hill repeats, and that one at 10 days I would do at 75% of the week before.
Cool, great answer. Eric, I hope that answers your question. I'm just trying to. Anton saying he had a flu vaccine and he ran a marathon PB 4 days later. So here we go. I'm just trying to see if there was another question that just came through. Oh, yes, there we go. When's a good time to arrive in Durban, Lindsay? This is from Ian. I'd hope that everybo's got their accommodation and everything sorted right now, but is there an optimal time to arrive to sort of get acclimatized to the heat? Not that it's hot in Durban, but for the guys coming from up north in South Africa, it is a bit warmer than they used to, and there might be a little bit more humidity than they used to as well. Is there an optimal time to arrive?
Yeah, look, for me, 2 nights is good. Obviously, for practical reasons, a lot of people, particularly locally, can't really do that. And from a time zone and that sort of perspective, getting in the night before is fairly comfortable. But for the most part, unless you're traveling across time zones, so again, if you're coming from Europe and it's 1 or 2 hours, but yeah, then I would say 2 good nights sleep in Durban is, well, 1 good night's sleep 2 nights before, and then 1 night of restless sleep rolling around, worrying about the next day. But yeah, 2 days in your hotel bed is probably quite good. If you're traveling across time zones, we've just found over the years with our travels overseas that the 4th day is the worst day. So you just want to try and avoid day 4 being your race day in South Africa. Of course, that can be negated if you're fortunate enough to be able to fly business class. That does change that a bit. Probably also then fine to come in 48 hours before. And also if you start that acclimatization, or not acclimatization, that time zone adjustment before you arrive. So if you west of us, if you just go to bed that hour later, and if you're east of us, you go to bed that hour earlier, then, or no, it's the other way around. Jeez, got to get these things right. But you need to sleep 1 hour per day to adjust, to get closer to the time zone. If you do at least half of the work before you get here, then you'll jump into our time zone very easily and comfortably.
Yeah, Lindsay, I'm not a huge fan of these sorts of questions, but I think this is important to put this one on. It's from Tico. Tico's saying he's considering a 73k on Wednesday and then a 35 on Saturday. Is it still safe to do so? Your thoughts on a 73k training run as a novice?
So look, I wouldn't do it. I mean, to be honest, even my and look, all coaches are different. So we have to accept that people have slightly different philosophies here. But none of my athletes that have gotten gold medals at Comrades, none of my athletes that won the race have ever done a 70-kilometer training run. So there's no way, in good conscience, I could recommend that to any runner, and I certainly can't, with any kind of confidence, recommend or conscience, recommend that to a novice. I mean, I absolutely wouldn't do it. With 4 weeks to go, the absolute furthest I would go is 60 Ks. And I do know, I know 2 or 3 coaches that do let their athletes that get gold medals do a 70 to 75K training run. And I know another 2 or 3 coaches whose athletes also have gold medals that don't go past 50K. So, there are different ways of skinning this cat. I realize that. But for me, 70Ks is a hell of a run. And there's going to be payback for that. And as a novice, you run 70Ks this weekend, you might finish Comrades. You've run your best Comrades probably this weekend.
Yep, absolutely. We've got a few minutes left, so if you've got any other questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. Just to wrap up some more housekeeping while we do that, if you have a lastminute.com question you'd like to get in, I just realized I didn't put the correct slide in, but the next online success seminar, ignore the slide that's on the screen. I'm going to turn that off. Let's see. There we go. That's the right one. Monday, the 27th of May, so literally 2 weeks out from race day, we're going to be doing our last one, and that is probably my favorite online seminar that we do, because we literally talk about race day management and how you can save yourself some time, because by that stage in your Comrades training, all the work is done and it's about execution and getting it right on race day. And you're not going to want to miss that one, particularly if you are in that sort of 11 to 12 hour bracket, because we're going to talk about how you can save yourself at least 20 minutes on race day. We've done that talk so many times, but I know the runners love hearing it again, because it's a great reminder on what you need to do on race day. So if you're only going to join us for one of these online seminars live, make sure it's that one. Monday the 27th of May. It's happening same time, 8 p.m. It's GMT +2 wherever you are in the world, and you can register if you want to get the reminders. Just go to coachparry.com/webinar. That's where you can get all those details. And just once again, a massive thank you to Bonitas for sponsoring these online seminars. And if it wasn't for them, they would not be happening. Let me see if any last questions have come through. Here we go, from Fahima. This is a great question, Lindsay, and I'm surprised there's not one that we've had already, and it's about the pacing bands. Will they be available at the Expo?
Yeah, they absolutely will be available at the Expo. I have done them. They have been done well in advance this year, so they should actually be in Durban waiting for us quite a few weeks before the Expo. So yes, there will be pacing charts. We will be selling them for charity, and I will be doing talks at the Expo to explain to people how to do them. There will be 2 talks a day. So whatever time you arrive in Durban, there will be an opportunity to come and buy the charts and to sit in on a talk on how to use them.
Lindsay, I can't find the question. It came through a short while ago about the pacing buses. Somebody was asking about the pacing buses and should they hop on one? Is it going to help them get their Comrades medal? What are your suggestions when it comes to pacing buses?
Look, I'm not a big fan of pacing buses, and there's a lot of reasons for it. The first is that I find that most pacing buses they start too fast. Okay, so I feel like a lot of pacing buses, the people who sign up to be helped by the pacing bus at the start are not part of that massive celebration that comes in with the pacing buses last, because the pacing bus driver is generally much stronger than the people that he or she is trying to help. And I've just seen it too many times where they actually destroy the people that they're trying to help. So that's the one thing. The second thing, a lot of those buses, especially at Comrades, are enormous. And so it actually gets very difficult for you to get what you need from the refreshment stations if you are in those pacing buses, particularly from early on. So my advice is to run your own race. That happens to coincide quite closely with a pacing bus, then you will get the benefits which are good about a pacing bus, and that's like good camaraderie, an experienced runner that can give you advice, keep the mood going. But for me, the most valuable time of those pacing buses is in the last 15 to 20 kilometers. So if you find yourself close to a pacing bus in the last 15 to 20, then I would absolutely hop on that bus and get involved and take advantage. Those last 20 to 30 Ks, nutrition, yes, you do want to get it in there, but it's probably not as important as it is in the first 30 kilometers. You're probably a little tired of whatever's on offer anyway. And that camaraderie and singing and someone else telling you when to run and when to walk, it becomes really useful. When you're tired and just need to keep one foot in front of the other, it's useful having thinking for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Before we wrap things up, I'm a bit disturbed, Lindsay. I always mention this, some of the stats on these webinars, but I was looking at the amount of likes and thumbs up and loves. We've got 1 laughing face and we've got 2 angry faces. So we obviously weren't that funny tonight, and we've really made a couple of people cross this evening. So if those angry faces are for you, I'm sorry, but we would like a few more laughing faces. It would make us feel a little bit better about ourselves tonight. Just a big thank you as well, once again, to everyone at Bonitas. And don't forget, if you want to get that Comrades Marathon Roadmap, the URL to get to is coachparry.com/roadmap. That's where you can get it. And a big thank you to Bonitas. And then I'm going to leave the parting shot to the coach. Lindsay, final words before our next one in 2 weeks. What you got to say?
Yeah, I mean, if I can summarize the most important bit of this webinar tonight, it's like this is really the time to listen to your body. Listen to what it's telling you. If there's pain, treat it. If there's very heavy fatigue, do something about it. Freshen up. And know that you are in the finishing straight. I mean, I can't actually believe we're talking about tapering already. It's absolutely flown by.
Absolutely. Lindsay, as always, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to you at home for joining us today. And if you wouldn't mind, let us know one thing in the comments that you got out of tonight's webinar. We always love to hear what people get out of these. Let us know in the comments, what did you take out of this? And best of luck for the final 5 weeks. We'll catch up with you again on the last Monday in May. We look forward to spending some more time with you then. Until then, from the two of us, it's cheers.